Thank you for coming. This is the 12th Seattle Angel Conference. My name is John Seacrest. I work on making startups go faster. And one of the problems with startups is that they have a shortage of resources. They don't know what to do, they don't know when to do it, and they certainly don't have customer bases that are overflowing at the beginning. And so our goal is to create more angel investors. And this is the 12th time that we've brought everybody together. We're using a model that we found in Oregon. I founded the Willamette Angel Conference as well, so there's 5 of them down there. If you ever take a trip to Oregon, you can do this same kind of thing there. The Ben Venture Conference is particularly fun if you like that. Our goal today is to finalize what's been going on for the last 6 months. We had a series of workshops. Those workshops talk about team structure, due diligence, the things you need to know to be investable. And then we also try to train angel investors. And so for the last 12 weeks, we've been going through the process of looking at the 43 companies that applied, cut the bottom off, here 10-minute pitches, cut the bottom off, here 3-minute pitches, cut the bottom off, and walk through until we have 6 finalists. Those 6 finalists are presenting today, and then we'll go in the back room and we'll vote on which one of them is going to get our investment. We have had over 300 people go through this process, several of whom who are still currently investing. But let's get a sense of who's in the room right now. How many people are at big companies or at big companies, like being at the big company and never foresee leaving the big company? 1. Okay. How many people are at big companies and think maybe this startup thing might be interesting and I would like to be an entrepreneur? There's a couple. How many think I would like to be an investor instead because that entrepreneur stuff is too hard? Now I have more of those. Okay, so how many people here have written a check in angel investing? Raise your hand. Yeah, look at that. Probably 40% of the room. How many people here have taken an angel investment as an entrepreneur? Look at that, maybe 25% of the room. How many of you are hoping to do your first investment in this next couple of months? Look at that, maybe 10%. How many people are hoping to take an investment in the next couple of months? Look at that, almost half the room. Okay, so we have a bunch. Now, how many of you are service providers that really want to get somebody to buy your service? Maybe 5%. Okay, so the goal of this is to get you talking to each other. There's interesting people in the room. And our goal is to keep creating more angel investors. And you can help us do that by understanding the process we've gone through and tell other people about it as we go along. So over the last 12 years, we've been very fortunate to have Bob Crimmins as our MC. He's created the flow for each of our events and is the perpetual MC, he said, for as long as I'll have him. So that's working. He also works at a thing called Startup Haven, which is working to help founders and investors find each other. And he's expanded to several other cities with his Startup Poker program. How many people have played Startup Poker 2.0? Oh, look at that, almost 10% of the room. Well, if you're a CEO or an investor, you should talk to Bob about being at Startup Poker and learning more. So Bob, come on up.
Come on. All right, so thank you, sir. Can you guys all hear me? Awesome. Yeah, this is the 12th time I've been standing up in front of you folks, and I see a lot of familiar faces. Really great crowd here tonight, or today. John, for those of you who don't know, if you're new to Seattle Angel Conference, John started this from nothing, and it's been just an amazing success with lots and lots of new startups getting some funding, and more importantly, going through the program as an education. So I want to give a round of applause for John for making this thing happen. Thank you, John. So a couple of housekeeping. If you haven't used the restroom yet, it's out. Go down to the left at the end and make a left, and you'll see the restrooms there. If you see something you like today, and you've got a social media presence, it'll pop up here in a second again, but it's NWAngelConf is our Twitter handle. So, spread some love, blow up the internets, be awesome. And so for today, really, the only reason I'm up here is to boot founders off the stage when they go too long. So we're gonna get to that in a minute. But before that, we want to share with you guys some of the success stories of the past Angel Conference alumni, the winners. And so I want to bring up, where are you at, Jay? Right here. Oh, bring up Jay Beavers, who will share some alumni updates. Grab that mic.
Thank you.
There you go.
All right. Thank you, Bob.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm the fund administrator for this conference, Seattle Angel 12. Thank you. And we have one of our founders, previous alumni, to come up and talk a little bit about their experience and their company. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring up Max Baker from Alumni to talk about where they're at. Hi, nice to meet you, Max.
Very nice to meet you. Yeah.
All right, here's a
All right.
microphone.
Can you guys hear me okay? I'm Max Baker, CEO of Alumni. Our VP of Marketing is back there. Feel free to say hi to Jen Irish at any time. Our company, we were the winner of the first SAC award prize. So that was back in late 2012. It's been a while. And according to the Willamette Angel Fund, most angel investors typically receive a return about 8 to 10 years. So it's looking like if we're successful and we can keep going, we might be in that range, but we got a lot of work to do. Our company makes a product called the Halo Light. It's designed to fit on a standard hard hat. When I first presented here, we had an ugly prototype, had a cord and a battery pack and a bunch of other stuff. But earlier this year, we actually released a cord-free version. So from some customer input, we improved the functionality by basically a 4x, and we cut the price in half. So by the end of the year, it's my aggressive hope that we can 3.5x increase sales over last year. We're tracking along that direction. So it's my hope that in Q1 of next year, I can give a good report on that side. But for what it's worth, SAC was very helpful to us from the very beginning. It's been an absolute slog at getting here. But I wish all the presenters the best of luck and everything. Like, I feel very fortunate to have the company that we have today. And since the very beginning, we've talked a lot about changing the safety space. So we aim to improve the lives of those in high-risk situations by helping them come home. And in the last year, we've been really fortunate to see companies like 3M, Honeywell, Caterpillar, Volvo Equipment use the words that our brand first started talking about back in 2013 and 2014. So seems like vindication. And yeah, best of luck to everyone.
Thank you, Max. Okay, so near and dear to my heart, since this is my third round of Seattle Angel Conference, are the previous two rounds. So I thought I would give you a little taste of an update from them. So SAC XI, which was about 6 months ago, the winner was Safcan. And Safcan makes basically a device that removes earwax, impacted earwax, using, you can kind of see over there on the upper left, something that looks like kind of a really weird Dr. Dre Beats headphones thing. Okay, and they've been doing quite well. They've gotten some excellent press lately, and they just got accepted into the Dream It Health Accelerator, which is a accelerator with many of their target market customers participating in it with about a 3% acceptance rate. So they're very excited about where they are and where they're going. SAC 10, which is 12 months ago, was won by a company called Envio. And Envio is a company that helps make the clinical trial process go easier. I happen to, in my day job, do a little bit of work with medical devices, so I know what a pain that is. So I'm very excited to see a company making that work better. And recently, their big news is they were just accepted into the Cedars-Sinai Accelerator, powered by Techstars. So they're very excited about what that's going to do to their upcoming potential. Now, this round of SAC, we had a lady named Carly Price who helped us do some numerical analysis on the past investments to kind of get a feel for where are we at, how are things going. So I have taken her analysis and summarized it for you, but I wanted to give proper credit to Carly, who did actually all the hard work here. So we have been investing for 5 years, and we have made 16 investments over those 5 years. Of those, 3 of our investments have died. It happens in this space. None have exited yet. We're a little early for exits. Typical exits are, 5 to 8 years in this space. So we're just a little too early to see the big exits yet. But we have had 8 rounds of new investment in the 16 companies that we've invested in. So using that, we were able to kind of look at an updated value for the companies. So what does that turn into? So far, Seattle Angel Conference has invested $2.25 million in these companies, and they're now currently valued at $75 million and a quarter. So quite a bit of value has been created. Now, if you come to any of John's Angel 101 conferences, which teaches about angel investing and what it looks like, you'll recognize this slide on the bottom, which is basically tells you what are the types of investments made, what are the types of returns, what are angel investors and venture capitalists looking for. So I did an early analysis. Now this is just based on the new valuations, and nobody has exited yet, so it's really an early set of numbers, but it gives you an idea of how Seattle Angel Conference is doing compared to studies on venture capital and studies on angel investing in general. So you can see that the percentage of companies that we invest in that basically return less the investment is relatively small. We're down at 27%. Right now, since we're a little bit early, we have a fairly high column here in the 1 to 5-fold investment return. Okay, so we're at about 55%, not bad. One of the things I wanted to point out about this column of 1 to 5-fold investment, I calculated this based on our holding of 5 years, which is the lifetime of where we're at right now. This is an annual interest rate or an annual return rate of between 8 and about 45%. So even though this is the small column, do realize that many of these are like 20%, 30%, 40% return on investment. Okay, so it's actually a pretty impressive column there. And then you can see in some of the big hits, we've got one company or 9% in the 5 to 10x and one company in the 10 to 30x. We don't have any in the runaway hits at this point, but the runaway hits are also companies that tend to come in later in the investment. So typically those are investments you make that you hold for 9 or 10 years or so. So we're a little early. I expect what we'll see over the next few years as we continue to track this, that we'll see it kind of broaden out a little bit. This number will go up a little bit, and those numbers will go up a little bit as well. But that's just a guess, speculation. Okay, that is all that I have.
Thank you, Jay. How many in the room were at SAC 1? Only a few. So I just want to call out Max. So Max's pitch was unlike any pitch you're likely to see here today. And kudos to, I mean, I feel like, the local boy makes good. He's sort of gone off and now he's this big CEO. There were more expletives in Max's first pitch than you would normally see. Oh, well, it depends on what you count as an expletive. But anyway, congratulations, Max. I think it's awesome. All right, next up. So now I'm going to introduce, let's see if we've got this queued up. Do we have this queued up? One moment, please. Good. Yes, Alan is an investor and will be the LLC manager next time.
Next round. Yeah.
So he's cutting his teeth here.
And failing on.
So I'm gonna tell you what we're doing here. So we have a wonderful keynote speaker today, and we're trying to find the right slide.
Why is it not coming up for me?
Okay. So this is what startups do. Things go wrong, and you have to roll with the punches, and you have to make everything work. So let's at least get. So why don't you have a deck up here? But we can't get it.
What? No, I can get it.
Okay. Yeah.
I was trying to bring up a picture.
Yeah. Well, so normally we would have a nice headshot here, But let me just introduce Bonnie, and we'll get started. Bonnie is an incredible. I was having fun. One of the things I get to do when I do this is I get to go out and find out who these people are. They're going to come in and share wisdom with us. And so I had fun looking around to find a bio that I thought captured what Bonnie would want us to know. There she is. And so I'm just going to read you a few things so you can familiarize yourself. She has a bio in the program. I'm sure many of you have read that. But let me just share with you that Bonnie is the founder of Peak Ventures, an impact investment and management company, and Peak Fund, an angel fund focusing on leadership diversity and women-led ventures. She has made and financed over $1 billion in alternative investments in Europe and North America. Having grown up in a working-class family, education had the biggest impact on her life. She strongly believes in empowering people with knowledge to make better and more mindful investment decisions. Bonnie, please welcome Bonnie.
I am an angel investor, and my adventures in angel investing began about 10 years ago. And over the course of the past 10 years, I've come to realize that angel investing is a marathon, and that smart angels don't sprint. Smart angels don't sprint during the relationship building process with founders. We take time to get to know the founders and their vision and the ventures that they're building. Smart angels don't sprint at the first sign of trouble. Instead, we roll up our sleeves and we do whatever we can to help them grow and succeed. I'm Bonnie Foley-Wong, and I'm the founder of Peak Ventures, an impact investment and management firm based in Vancouver, BC. I'm also the founding investor in an inclusive angel fund called Peak Fund, which focuses on women-led tech companies. I'm also the author of Integrated Investing, Impact Investing with Head, Heart, Body, and Soul, which I published last year. And last but not least, I'm the CFO of a company based in Gig Harbor, Washington, where we invested in and manage an operating business. Today I'm going to share some stories with you. I'm going to share with you my own entrepreneurial and investing journey, how I got started as an angel investor. I'll share with you one of the tools that I developed that helped me decide what startups we still needed. It also was my way of answering what is impact. I'll talk a bit about a relationship mindset, which is critical, especially in early stage investing. And I'll share some of the stories about the founders that I've had the privilege of investing in and what that journey has been like. And lastly, I'll close with just a few words about the changing face of angel investing. So getting started. I didn't grow up in an entrepreneurial family. My parents were not entrepreneurs. Instead, their sole mission was to make sure me and my sister got a good education and got good jobs that would provide safety and security and stability. And fortunate for them, my first career was one that was of my choosing, and fortunately it did make them quite happy. I decided to become a chartered accountant, which is the Canadian equivalent of the CPA here in the States. I figured that the world would always need accountants. It was a nice, safe and secure, stable career, and that's what I set out to do initially. But after a few years with Deloitte, I got itchy feet. And I stuck up my hand and said, I want to go live and work in Europe and see what that is like, much to the chagrin of my parents. They could not comprehend why I would want to leave a safe, stable job and travel halfway around the world to an expensive city full of unknowns and uncertainty. But I did it because I was curious. I was curious what it would be like living and working in a different place, having grown up in my hometown. And it was life-changing. I moved to the UK in 1999, and moving to London was something that I thought other people did. But this would turn out to be a theme in my life, because even though I thought that, I still persisted and gave it a shot, because what was the worst that could happen? It was life-changing, working in one of the financial centers of the world, exposed me to more transaction-based work and enabled me to be a corporate finance advisor and work in M&A for a couple years. I got itchy feet again. Rather than just advising entrepreneurs and business people and investors, I wanted to get closer to how investment decisions were made with capital. And I ended up becoming an investment banker. Again, something I thought other people did. But I had the opportunity, and I took it, had no idea what investment banking was or what was possible. And over the course of about 5 years, I probably learned more about how money moved in capital and private markets than any person needs to know. But it was also very informative in terms of how individuals made decisions on their own and in groups. And it was very formative and probably, in a sense, catalyzed my love and obsession around decision-making with capital. However, about 10 years ago, I was where I probably should have been at the pinnacle of my career. I was deeply unhappy. This was 2007, so you remember what happened in 2007, 2008, so it starts to paint the picture. And I was working with folks that really weren't that creative, really weren't that clever. They were just leveraging up their deals, very, very large deals, large sums of debt, and it was just a big shell game. And given where I'd come from and what my parents had hoped I'd do with my career, it was certainly not where I thought I would end up. And so I left high finance really quite jaded and dejected, and I literally ran away to the mountains. That's what the Basie part is. I lived in Argentina for 3 months, qualified as a downhill ski instructor. I lived in the French Alps for 4 months. What does that have to do with my career and what I'm doing? Well, and it was actually also informative because with downhill skiing, we need to make decisions in the face of uncertainty and make decisions moving from one safe place to another. However, when the snow melts, there's not that much to do. And so when it was summer 2009 came along, I decided I was not going to pack in my financial career. I was going to do something useful and purposeful with the financial skills that I had gained. And now with this newfound appetite for risk that I had developed over the course of my career. So in 2011, I moved back to Canada, moved to Vancouver, not my hometown, and started this exploration in private venture investing, early stage investing, and impact investing. And I founded Peak Ventures as the umbrella under which I would do all of my entrepreneurial work. And it's been a real shift in terms of my mindset, going from a large corporate environment working on really big deals to a more entrepreneurial environment, working on investments 10, 25, 50,000, where those numbers feel like a really big deal. And I've gone from a place where I'd be looking backwards and playing it safe to a place where I'm looking ahead towards the future and being risk aware. And so getting started as an angel investor was tricky. I felt like an outsider because I was a financier. I'm not an exited entrepreneur. I was new to Vancouver, but I started with what I know. And I started with how could I help founders build their businesses with that knowledge and expertise that I had. And I started with a lens of what kind of impact or change did I want to see in the world. And so at the end of the day, I'm a big advocate for being curious about the unknown, practice makes not bad, and learning by doing. And quite frankly, it came down to writing those first checks. Even to this day, I still get a little bit nervous when I write a check, but I do so having gotten to know the founders, doing my due diligence, and feeling confident. But it's the practice and the doing that enabled me to start. So this is the alternative title to the first chapter in my book. What startups do we still need? And I developed a tool, a methodology to help answer this, to guide me in my decision about what kind of startups to invest in. It actually evolved from the early part of my transition into the space, where people would ask me, like, what is the impact in impact investing? And the overall lens that I have is I want to be investing in startups that help take care of the village. So what does that mean? So my philosophy is we all need access to certain essential resources so that we can survive, thrive, and be happy. And impact is an improvement in that access, essentially helping people survive, thrive, and be happier. And so I developed this model of access to essential resources where practically everything that we could need falls under one of these 6 categories. So when I'm looking at a venture, when I'm trying to consider, do we need the startup? It's whether or not that startup is helping to provide an access to one of these resources. The other part to the model is the type of access. And this was developed because the impact spectrum is broad. Okay, we're talking about a lot of different needs and access points, and there is no one definition of impact, but I was trying to develop a model to help communicate the type of impact a venture was having. And so the top 3 and this one, so basic, efficient, choice, and convenience, implies that we are the beneficiary of that type of access to a resource. So in business model canvas speak, it's the customer segment that is either getting basic access, more efficient access, choice of access, or convenient access to some kind of resource. The bottom 2, supply chain and employment, is the left side of the business model canvas, as you will. So through that, the supplier side or partner side. Because when I'm looking at ventures, like some of the ventures that I've invested in are what I call plain vanilla. On the face of it, you can't tell if they're an impact business or not because they're providing some kind of efficient or convenient access to a resource. But then I look deeper into the business model, and I try to take a look at whether there's some kind of impact through the supply chain, like more ethical, sustainable supply chain, or employment. Is it more inclusive? Is it more diverse? And the idea behind this model is to help us as investors prevent investing in another juicero or invest in a better Uber, where drivers and employers and contractors actually get paid fairly, that it's not just about customers getting better service, that the partners and suppliers involved in making that business happen are actually treated more fairly. So why invest in the first place? There are plenty of reasons, but the ones that I like to focus on are things like leadership. We're all experienced in this room. How can we use our expertise and experience to help lift others up? It's connection. I don't invest on my own. I invest together with others through my fund. I have other co-investors. I get to meet amazing people all the time doing this, and the connections are incredible. And we want to be investing in innovation, not for innovation's sake, but because times are changing, and we do need to be investing things that help us deal with that change. And legacy. We're going to leave something behind at the end of the day, so let's leave the world a better place than how we found it. So the relationship mindset is so key. I always had a relationship mindset in all the work that I did, but I realized it's so important in angel investing because, and you've probably heard this before, there's not a lot to analyze. It's a lot about the people that are behind it. I have a motto of meeting people before you need to meet them. So even before I wrote my first check, I was out there meeting entrepreneurs. And thank goodness they were willing to take meetings from me, even though I wasn't yet investing. And I still do this to this day. So a lot of the ventures that I invest in, I've known them for at least a year, if not 2 or 3 years before I write that first check. That might seem a bit surprising, but I stick to it because in cases where I haven't done that, it's not gone so well. And so it gives me an opportunity to meet founders over time, to see if they do what they say they're going to do, and to also see whether or not we even want to work together. And it's part of my whole due diligence process. It's what I call experiential due diligence. There's nothing better than experiencing how a founder makes decisions in the face of uncertainty and experiencing how you're going to work together in that investor-founder relationship. And angel investing is active investing, in my opinion. It's not stock picking, because we make the biggest difference not just by writing the check, but actually rolling up our sleeves and helping in whatever way we can to help our founders grow and succeed. And it's wide-ranging. The ventures that I'm investing in are all at different stages. They experience similar but different challenges at different times. And so it does require the mental agility, but also the experience to be able to contribute to that process beyond the check. This is the post-investment phase. And I was a financier by background, and I came to this feeling like I've been investing my whole life. I've been doing due diligence my whole career. Like, I should be good at this. Fortunately, in parallel with this journey, I was developing my entrepreneurial skills and rolling up my sleeves and getting involved in operating businesses. And I have a great appreciation for entrepreneurs turned investors because they have that operational expertise to help our founders in these early stages through their challenges, find their way, and help them make decisions. At the end of the day, we need all sorts of people with all sorts of backgrounds in angel investing to help these new companies succeed. So, as I mentioned, one of the best parts of doing this are the amazing people that you get to meet. And I just wanted to share a couple of stories about the founders that I've had the privilege and opportunity to invest in. I was introduced to Jennifer Lee, CEO of MuseFind, about 5 years ago through a mutual friend. And at the time, she was a jewelry designer. She was making body chain jewelry like this piece that I'm wearing today. And she and her co-founder were building this fashion brand as an e-commerce business. And I agreed to be her advisor. I met with her and her co-founder quite often over the course of the year, trying to help them make the connection between the marketing efforts, the product design, and actually growing sales and starting to grow a business. And where they succeeded, where they were doing well, was they were able to develop relationships with popular influencers. They got their product reviewed by Michelle Phan, who's one of the most popular YouTubers. They even got their product in front of Lady Gaga and Lady Starlight. But what was happening was they were getting these spikes in their sales, but not actually being able to build a sustainable business. And I advised them, met with them regularly, and kind of got to a point where my advice would only go so far. And so I pointed them in the direction of various accelerator programs. In the end, they participated in the Entrepreneur Roundtable Accelerator in New York. And it was there that they pivoted and realized that they knew how to connect with influencers to really generate a return on the marketing investment. And they decided to build the technology to automate that process. They pivoted, and Jennifer herself as a personal pivoted from jewelry designer to tech CEO, essentially in the space of 3 years. So the venture that evolved from all that was MuseFind, an influencer marketing technology company. And they are now generating 6 digits in revenues on their way to 7 digits. They've grown their team from 3 co-founders to just under 20 people. And my relationship with them evolved. It went from advisor for equity, to me writing a check personally last year, and then to me recommending that Peak Fund also invest. And so we invested in the spring of this year as well. I continued to meet them regularly. I was down here in Seattle speaking at Seattle Startup Week, and asked Jennifer if she wanted to come along for some investor meetings. And so we've developed a really close relationship that has evolved as her venture has evolved. Oh, and one of the statements that she made, what kind of endeared me and encouraged me to write that first check, was after they'd come back from the ERA in New York, Jennifer sat down with me and was like, "Bonnie, be so proud of me. I'm tracking my metrics now, and I love it." And that was the transformation that I saw from someone who was, making and designing to someone who really grasped the idea of building a business. Another founder that I've supported over the last 5 years, I had met when I was starting to speak on panels about investing and venture investing. And she had come up to me randomly at the end of the event, started talking my ear off. She's a very fast talker. She talks a lot. And she told me about the venture that she had just started. And there must have been something in her that I saw. Maybe it's the fact that she was an accountant by training. I maybe have a soft spot for accountants still. But Catherine Dahl went from this scrappy determination, trying to build this AP automation company called Beanworks. And we would meet, and she would go through her presentation. Her pitch would evolve over time. She participated in an accelerator out of Waterloo, Canada. And we just kept meeting, and I kept saying, no, not yet, and I wasn't writing checks yet, until 2 years ago, in 2015, we ran into each other at the end of a technology awards dinner in Vancouver, and Catherine was livid. She was like, oh my gosh, all the winners were men that year. And she said, we've got to do something about this. We've got to change this. And I had updated her that Peak Fund was launched. I was starting to invest and starting to write checks. And she said, oh my gosh, I love what you're doing. I don't need your money, but if you can get your due diligence done in 3 weeks, you're in. So she was closing her last seed round. And what made it possible to do due diligence in 3 weeks was because I was doing experiential due diligence over 3 years. And so we got it done in 3 weeks, and we made our first investment in Beanworks. Subsequently, we made a follow-on last year, just before Catherine and Beanworks signed a big distribution deal with Sage. So Beanworks is now the exclusive AP automation plugin for all of Sage's products. And as a consequence of that, Catherine raised her Series A financing at the start of this year, and Peak Fund was able to participate in that as a previous investor. But it's not all rosy. It's not like we constantly get this flow of deals and they're all amazing and we just keep writing checks. In 2016, we did due diligence on a couple of deals, and at the 11th hour, for various reasons, and ranging from poor governance to the founder changing the terms that we proposed at the last minute, those deals didn't go through. In part, they were a testament to what I had said earlier about not taking the time to do experiential due diligence. But we did manage to make a couple of follow-ons, but no new deals in 2016. The flip side to that, at the start of 2017, when it rains, it pours. In the space of the first 4 months of this calendar year, we made another follow-on in an existing portfolio company and 2 new deals. And right now, we're doing due diligence on 3 more ventures. We're likely to invest in 1 or 2 of those. And when we're making decisions about who to invest in, I am a strong proponent of integrating analysis, emotion, body, and intuition into those decisions. It makes sense to do analysis. Experiential due diligence is part of that. Gather as much information and data about the founders and the companies as you can. But it's really critical to check in about how you actually feel about the opportunity, about the founders. Because this is a relationship, and this is long-term. So I pay attention to how I feel about the investment relationships I'm forming. Am I energized by what the founder is trying to achieve, about spending time with this person? Because if I am happy and energized and enjoy working with the founder, I am more likely to champion them. I'm more likely to try to connect them to potential customers or potential investors down the road, talk about them at every opportunity I can, and do whatever it takes through good times and bad to help them. It's a feeling that drives that. It's not the analysis side. I'm also mindful, if I've been having a tough week, if I'm tired, stressed out, hungry even, just to be mindful not to make decisions when other resources are feeling kind of scarce. And lastly, a lot of what we're investing in, we don't know what's going to happen. There is a lot of uncertainty and unknowns in angel investing. We can't analyze what hasn't happened yet. And so we do need to tap into our intuition to help guide our decisions in this kind of situation. I've also been asked before about how to cultivate great investor-founder relationships. And often I hear from others, the key is communication, communication, communication. But it's not as simple as that, because there's some other key stepping stones to get us to a place where there's good communication. It does also involve, finding out, do we disagree well? I try to be really aware of how I'm feeling, what are my limitations? I can't help everyone. I don't necessarily have the skill set for every type of venture, so self-awareness is key too. And with my founders, we celebrate together as well. So when my founders reach a big milestone, I'm there to support. Catherine was nominated for an award earlier this year, and I had the privilege of attending the awards dinner with her and her team. Peak Fund hosts events where we bring our investors and potential investors and our founders together so that everyone can meet each other and our investors can see what the fund is investing in. And so all of these things contribute to having a good relationship where we can communicate well with each other. And so lastly, I just wanted to touch a bit upon the changing face of angel investing. These are numbers taken from the Center for Venture Research. The sort of top of the bar is the total number of angel investors in the US. It's kind of tracking around 300,000 people or so. And in 2012, women represented about 21% of that total number. People of color has ranged from about 4 to 5%. That bar is a little bit deceiving in that it's men and women, so it's not a true stat, but it gives you a sense of the relative ratios of how women and people of color are represented in the angel investing community. In 2016, women represented about 26%, but people of color, really that percentage hasn't changed all that much. To give you a sense of what is possible, in Peak Fund, we currently have 29 investors, of which 24 are women, and 10 of those women are people of color. And so this kind of diversity or this kind of mix is possible if you set out to do it. And perhaps maybe by me putting a stake in the ground, it gave people a place to come and gather. The fund is made up of people with high levels of wealth, as well as people of moderate levels of wealth. But I really aimed to create a place where a more diverse group of people could come together and invest, because I mentioned earlier, we need folks with different types of expertise, different backgrounds, different perspectives, with a different lens around what kind of problems we want to be solving and the types of leaders we want to be supporting. And we only have to look at natural ecosystems to see why diversity is important. Monocultures might grow bigger and faster, but they are rife with disease and challenges. And we've seen that in business. Diverse ecosystems thrive. And that's what we need to see in the venture ecosystem as well, because these are the companies of tomorrow that we're investing in. And so I encourage you all to diversify your investments and invest in diversity. Thank you.
So, you'd like to take some questions?
Oh yes.
So, time for a couple questions. Just raise your hand if you. Here you go.
Hi.
graph that there was a big jump in people of color and women in 2014. I was just wondering if you had an idea why that was.
I don't. I didn't dig into the data, but as you can see, the total number of investors leapt up as well. I didn't go into it in any detail to try to work out like what happened in 2014, but I'll note that and I'll try to find out.
If you don't mind disclosing, could you say approximately what is the amount that you would normally invest in the very first round, and then maybe what would be a follow-on round amount?
Yep. So our first check. So from the fund, it tends to be 25 to 50 as a first check. Me personally, the checks are smaller, but we reserve an amount for follow-on as well, and that can vary depending on the stage, the success, and the need of the company. Yeah. I need some help. I don't know who went first.
I was wondering, how do you find the people that you invest in?
So the question was, how do I find founders and ventures to invest in? So right now, we get a lot of referrals. So I get a lot of referrals from other investors, occasionally from other funded entrepreneurs or the companies in our portfolio. Earlier on, when I was first starting, like I would take a meeting with almost anyone, and was meeting folks at events, introductions through mutual contacts who might have had some sense about what we were doing, and that evolved. I'll be honest. I still do meet people at events. It is really tricky because if I can get a referral, there's already been a bit of vetting, and I have a network of people who know what me and Peak Fund are looking for. But I'm always mindful of like, how can people, open that first door and like find folks if there isn't that referral network, and it does require just getting out there and meeting people and trying to find that common ground, and then establish a reason to meet again. Oh, yeah.
Funny. When you're evaluating like an entrepreneur's character, what are some key characteristics you personally look for?
That one's really hard because when you take a look at who we've invested in, they're all quite different. Like the person. Oh, sorry. So the question was, what kind of personal traits, characteristics do we look for in founders? And I was saying, if you look across the board, like a lot of our founders are quite different. Like the backgrounds are quite different. Jennifer is a designer by training, but what was necessary for us to invest in is that she needed to have that desire to build a business. I do in this space meet a lot of makers, like people who like to make stuff, but don't necessarily want to build a business or learn all the different components of a business. So in some ways, having that desire not just to build a product or a technology, but having the drive to become a business person and a leader. But I don't know, there's no common, I can't really put my finger on a common trait per se. Certainly, especially because I'm focusing on women-led ventures right now, all of our founders are pioneers. Like they are still operating in environments where, they're the odd one out. They're transacting with mainly men or whatever, or they're first in their field or whatever. And so they're pretty persistent. Probably tend to not take no for an answer, and they kind of have thick skins, which I think pioneers have to have. There's a question here. I don't know.
One more question? Anyone?
I just wondered what the size of your fund is.
So the question is the size of Peak Fund. So it is an angel fund, and so we're just north of $500,000 at the end of this month. It's an open-ended fund, so we welcome new investors periodically. So, we like to think of ourselves as a small fund doing big things.
Great. Thank you, Bonnie.
Thanks.